Yeah, there we go.
And we are live. Oh, baby. Super Tuesday, March 5th,
Oh man.
2024. We are in business here in California. One of the least exciting primaries in recent memory.
No
When there
kidding.
is a Democratic incumbency in a blue state, things are not particularly interesting.
Yeah, no
With that
kidding.
said, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about. We talked a little bit about the Senate race last night, a little bit about Proposition 1, which both of us found to be a little, you know, intentionally confusing, is what it felt like.
That's how it always is with these propositions. Like I was telling my roommate last night when we were talking about it. Um, like the way that they worded it made it sound like it was actually going to be beneficial, but actually doing research on it and looking a bit more into it, it actually wasn't really going to solve many of the actual issues. It seemed to be more of like a pet project from Gavin Newsom.
Newsom. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and all sorts of groups were against it, like the ACLU, for example, like multiple factions of them, among other groups as well. But it didn't look like something really worth supporting.
Well, when I see reallocation of resources as opposed to a, you know, reestablishment of resources,
Yeah,
then that makes me worried because if
right,
it seems like the levers of government should be able to go ahead and manage that on their own. It seems like if they want to do something
right.
really big, that's when they put it up for a ballot. So, six. I think it's going to pass. By the way, I'm pretty sure
It
that one's going
probably
to pass.
is. Yeah.
I voted. I voted no, just so you know.
Yes. Yeah. Same here. We voted no as well. Yeah. No. Like. It. If anything, like for props like that, I think new revenue would need to be generated in order to fund it, rather than taking funds from elsewhere. Because if the economy is growing, then so is the tax revenue, and new funds could just be like put towards that, or taxes could be raised, and that could be used to fund the project, which is what states have been doing like here and there since the beginning of this country. I think that'd be the better way to do it.
All right, we got to get into. I just want to do it. It's like this guy. I am fascinated by him. It's obvious,
Yeah,
but let's do. Let's see. Okay, so we got, and I also wanted to show this MSNBC clip too because this
yeah.
is research, baby. This is research. Read it and weep, conservatives.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist
True.
group.
True.
QAnon support and subscribers,
These are
election
facts.
denialism, COVID denialism, and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
Well, first they came for white male evangelicals, and then they just came for every white voter. And then guess who
That's
they
not what
came
they
for
were
next?
saying. That's not.
You.
That's not what they were saying, dude. Oh my god! Wow, the dishonesty. Not a single thing said there was incorrect.
Well,
And
there's the question though. Do you think he's being dishonest, or do
yes,
you think he's just too stupid to realize that that is a ridiculous defense? Because that's suggesting that any demographic analysis is inherently racist or classist
yeah,
or
no, and
just by
they were specifically talking about white rural voters that tend to
rural, uneducated whites, MAGA America.
right. They weren't talking about all white voters. So like
I don't even think they were. I don't even think they were talking about uneducated. I think it was just all rural white voters.
exactly like the, either he's being dishonest or he just wasn't
I think he's in
actually listening.
denial.
Yeah, he just wasn't actually
I think he's in
listening.
denial.
Yeah, yeah, he doesn't want to hear it, so he has to spin it. Yeah, that's pretty gross. That's pretty Weasley, dude. Wow.
Yeah, he's a weird guy. He's a weird guy. It's funny because he's got a Jewish last name, and he's like this hardcore Christian. But
Right.
all of the hardcore Christians wish they had the spiritual street cred
Right.
of Jews. All right, let's do another one really quick because he hates on Michael Moore. Michael Moore's the reason why I I crossed the aisle. So
People of this world have been
Yeah.
persecuted for 5,000 years. But for the last 2,000 years, most of the persecution has come from white, European centric Christians. That's been your enemy. No Palestinian helped to build Auschwitz. No Palestinian.
I don't know about 2,000 years, Michael, but okay. I mean, I see his point, but he's got to get a little bit better with the dates there because Christian
Right.
like militarism didn't really come around until Constantine, which was
He does a good. I mean, he does good work. He makes great documentaries. He has great politics for the most part. But when it comes to rhetoric and getting the point across, sometimes he could be a little flimsy with it. But still, he's like I have huge respect for Michael Moore.
Yeah, so Constantine became a Christian in 312, so he could have said about 1,700 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, point remains.
Palestinian stood on the docks of New York City when boatloads of Jewish refugees trying to escape the Holocaust came here to be protected by this country and were turned away at the docks in New York and sent back to Germany to die. No Palestinian did that. No Palestinian ran the Spanish Inquisition. Your enemy is not the Palestinian people.
October 7th?
It is white Christian
Oh my God,
European people who have been slaughtering Jews for the last 2,000 years.
I'm going to say this in very considered fashion. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, Ben's got a point, and but
The
No.
Ben's
no.
got a point, dude. You look up to Ben Shapiro, don't you? You fucking douchebag.
Yeah, like no, he doesn't have a Ben doesn't have a point whatsoever. Like, come on, indie thinker, come on, read. Are you really going to sit there and say that like every single German was responsible for the Holocaust? No, that sounds ridiculous, right? So like Germans clearly aren't responsible for the atrocities of World War II. Are you saying like the entire German populace? So you're going to blame October 7th on over the 2.2 million Palestinians there in Gaza? Like, make it make sense. Like, it's so gross. What the hell?
He's disingenuous. I also just
Yeah.
don't. I mean, you have never underestimate, man. Always go back to my theory about intelligence. It's not about quantity. It's not about stupid or smart. It's about quantity and quality of thought. And I just don't think he's thinking that much. He's been
No.
so deeply programmed that he won't think past the underlying assumptions of his beliefs.
Yeah.
Like that
Like,
God is all knowing, that God is present in our lives, that these really old school rules that come out of the Old Testament, should be adapted. I mean, he doesn't. That's the whole thing. Adaptability is like a foreign concept to
oh,
these people.
no kidding.
Everything's got to fit into the way they see the world and the way they want to do things. They call themselves the Party of Freedom, but their base is actually all about taking freedom away from people.
Yeah, and it's ironic too because while they are so resistant to the notion and the concept of adaptation and adapting to other things, they want society to adapt to their beliefs and their worldview, and they want to shape society around them. It's just ironic.
Michael Moore has become a grifter, according to Thunderbird. So I don't know about that.
I mean,
I
if
think
that's
I said I replied back. I said he's not perfect and he's made some weird calls, but still a tremendous
Oh
voice.
yeah, he's definitely made
So
some weird calls, but like I mean, nothing he's really done has indicated to me that he doesn't believe the things that he says. And
he's
yeah,
genuine for sure.
yeah, like obviously he monetizes his work. His entire life is shaped around his documentary work and his politics and whatnot. But I mean, I don't necessarily like think there's anything inherently wrong with that as long as you're honest. I think he is a genuine, honest person. To call him a grifter, I think is a little inaccurate. But like, there obviously like no one's perfect, and he has had some mishaps here and there. He did.
No, Jimmy Dore is a grifter. I don't
Yeah,
think Michael Moore is
yeah,
a grifter.
that's
I mean,
accurate. Yeah,
you can. I think if you want to set the standard of the ultimate grifter, it's got to be Jimmy Dore because if you look at where that guy stood
yeah,
7 or 8 years ago, I don't know, back when Trump was first elected, he was spitting. The classic story now is that he spat on who's the conspiracy theorist?
Alex Jones.
uh,
Yeah,
Alex Jones, and now he's doing like regular interviews with Alex Jones, and fundamentally,
can you believe it? Like,
yeah,
wow, the how
yeah,
far
I can,
you fall.
because
Like,
you got a taste of money, because you
yeah,
got a taste of money, and once you get a taste of money, having grown up with money, I can tell you that like seeing it happen with friends and peers and people who have tremendous educations and could really make a positive difference in the world, but ultimately they sell out. A big problem with government is that you can't pay people enough, so you don't attract the best talent in our society. It's kind of like why we're not as good at soccer is because our best athletes don't play it. Our government would function a lot better if our best intellects would actually get involved.
yeah,
So you see a lot of people like that kind of, I don't want to say sell out because everyone's got a right to do what they want with their life, but they do prioritize income,
hmm,
and they don't necessarily have that same sense of fulfillment for their work, and that's a tragedy because there's no excuse for them not to, coming from the privilege that they came from.
right, and no kidding. And like Jimmy's not the only one that sees the dollar signs and uh, flips his politics or whatever, because excuse me. There are a lot of people like since the dawn of Trump that have been approached online by various groups, various conservative groups, and get offered deals, contracts, substantial amounts of money and publicity as long as they toe a certain line. There are like YouTube skeptics. The whole skeptic community is a prime example that you can tell just by the history of like certain figures in that community over the years who was approached and accepted it and went that way, and who didn't, and who are still authentic and genuine, and even called out a whole lot of these uh, sellouts. They're sellouts. They're grifters. A lot of them are.
Yeah.
They saw the opportunity and they took the opportunity. Like they're part of groups now that are like part of networks, and they milk it. Their rhetoric is exacerbated and fueled by several times fold, and the, it's gross. Like it's gross how people have yeah.
I was thinking about a comparison in another part of our society that might be able to kind of encapsulate what we're talking about. But in the sports media world, there's a lot of hacks. There's a lot of people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, who get
Yeah.
heard and listened to and have influence. A guy by the name of Skip Bayless is probably the most famous one. He made a career for himself by subtly but not so subtly implying in his writing that Troy Aikman might be gay. I don't know if you know who Troy Aikman was.
Yeah.
He won three Super Bowls
Oh
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
Cowboys. Yeah. Anyway, so that's how Skip Bayless got a start, and he has become the villain. He makes a career. He makes millions and millions of dollars just being a villain in sports media, and I don't think he even believes half the crap he says. And I think that's the
Right.
case for a lot of grifters like Jimmy Dore. I think he's the most egregious. I think Dave Rubin might be stupid enough to believe a lot of his own bullshit. And
Yeah.
I think Ben Shapiro is a sociopath. So I know about those types of guys. The guys who took school really seriously
Yeah.
but like couldn't party at all and like never had any fun, never really had any
Yeah.
friends.
And then there are those
He's just
people.
he's a sociopath. He has no compassion. He has
Right.
no empathy. And if I were ever to have the opportunity to debate him or meet him in person, I would do my best to communicate that he is emotionally handicapped, or as I like to say, relationally retarded. It legitimately
Yeah.
is relational retardation. They
Yeah.
cannot get along. They cannot empathize with people that either, they just don't share their views.
Right. Yeah. No kidding. Thank you, Drew. He just let me know about dinner. The smart brother. I had him drop off the my ballot for me after because I didn't have time to do so after work. But yeah, it's there's a lot of people like that too, especially on the conservative right. Steven Crowder is one of them. That they really
You
just
got
go like
canceled though. What did you think of his cancellation? Did you think I mean, it sounds like he's made something of a comeback afterwards. I'm not
I
surprised.
I haven't really followed it since then. Like the whole thing with his wife and how like
Right now,
like
ex-wife.
yeah. Like that's not really. I mean, it wasn't a surprise at all, given the kind of like misogynist douchebag he always has been. But yeah, good on his wife for getting the hell out of there. Cause like I wouldn't like to have to endure being married to such a petulant man child like that, and just be mistreated. I
Abuse.
can't imagine. Yeah, literally abuse. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it seems to be pretty an obvious example of narcissistic abuse where the easiest quality of a narcissist to pick up on if you think you might be dealing with a narcissistic person, the easiest quality to pick up on is entitlement.
mm,
They expect you to accommodate them. They expect you to do what they want. They redirect the conversation back to them and their views. They rarely, if ever, ask a fucking question and are
yeah,
genuinely interested in what you think because they're constantly competing. So,
yeah,
it's the behavioral stuff that they really can't control is the entitlement. And in that
yeah,
video, you heard him just be all kinds of entitled, like
yeah.
the old 1950s form of marriage where the man brings home the bacon and the woman takes care of everything else.
Right,
And having come from a family like that, it is not healthy, man. It is not a healthy
right,
division of labor. There is something like if you want to do small potatoes stuff, like one part, the husband does all the cooking and the wife does all the cleaning. Like I know a couple like that where that works really well for them. But everything else, they're kind of trading responsibilities and working together as a team. But the division of the labor that goes along the line of the 1950s really is the man makes all the money and the woman does everything else.
right.
Everything else. And if you saw these guys on the Daily Wire, they had, them ask questions about like when was the last time he did laundry, when was the last time he did chores around the house. And they all said like it's
Dude.
been years. They all said it's been years.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
all
like
said it's
Matt
been
Walsh
years.
and all
I'm
them.
like, you
Yeah,
entitled fucking little
like
princes, you little boys.
holy
You
shit.
little boys.
That really blew my mind. That like it really does say quite a lot when like uh yeah, literally just pampered children. It's especially sad. Like it's really pathetic. Like because the way I read it, the way I look at it, like Steven Crowder for example, like he just kicks back, lays it on his back patio with a drink and a cigar because that's what a manly man does. That's what the husband does. Like he wants to like emulate that classic, old school 50s
Yeah, but a real man has
Dynamic.
real wood for his fireplace. He does not have wood pellets. Wood pellets are a joke. Any
Right.
real man living in Texas that has a real fireplace chops his own wood.
Yep.
What a pussy. What a fucking pussy, man.
Yeah.
Steven Crowder. Oh, man. I like it when Emma Vigeland goes after him on
Oh,
the
yeah.
Majority Report.
Same here.
She's a feisty one. I want to recruit her for my crusade to get lefties into sports culture. I've been doing, these episodes I'm writing ahead take forever. I basically have to write the next 3 to 4 episodes at the same time because what I say in episode 1 might affect what I'm going to say in episode 3 or 4. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No.
So-
she would be great because she does love talking.
She
up
knows sports.
Football. Yeah.
No, she knows
Yep.
sports, and she's got different loyalties than I do. She's
Yeah.
all kinds of East Coast.
Like
She's
New York
someone
Giants?
that. Yeah. Well, that's the thing about the New York sports fans. I mean,
Of
as
course,
far as
yeah.
New York sports fans go, she's pretty respectable.
No, of course. Yeah. She.
yeah.
Huge respect for Emma. Big time. I totally agree. I think it'd be great to just have a conversation with her, like in general, and follow her a long
All
time.
right. Should we kill a minute and take a look? Well, do we have any results to report? No, because we're all looking at California stuff today, and I don't know anything about like anything that's going on back east. But anyway, let's do this one. Bill Maher. I hate Bill Maher.
Oh,
So
God.
let's do
Sure.
this one from Kalinsky. Let's do a little reaction to him reacting, and we'll put it on.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Phil,
I
Dr.
put
Phil,
this.
and what's her name?
I actually
Batya
watched this earlier today. Yeah.
Bunger Sargon, like what? Batya Unger Sargon. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but anyway, she's the opinion editor at Newsweek. She's usually a fountain of incorrect takes.
I love that. A fountain.
They
of
talked about
incorrect takes.
on real time in like the post show
Is this
the
Dr.
uncommitted
Phil?
vote
Oh my
in
God.
Michigan
It
and how it
is,
surpassed
yeah.
100,000. How that is kind of a message to the Biden administration, like, hey, you got to change your Gaza policy. This is hurting you, right? They're going to discuss that, and this is just an endless well of smugness and wrongness. So let's watch, and then we'll break it down.
Should Democrats be worried about the 100,000 uncommitted votes in the Michigan primary? Oh, yes, I read about this. Will protest votes over Biden's policy in Gaza cost him the election in the fall? If people don't know what we're talking about, Michigan just had a primary. Michigan has a large Muslim population. They're not too thrilled that Joe Biden is supporting Israel. And it's
I love the framing.
No,
They're
it's
not too
even
thrilled that Biden is supporting Israel. That is the most vague, soft, mushy explanation humanly possible.
Yeah.
It's
no.
not like, oh my God, they're so upset that Biden is sending like bread to Israel or some subsidy. No, it's they're upset Biden is arming and funding the carpet bombing of children and the deaths of 35,000 civilians and the destruction wholesale of Gaza.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
what they're upset
it's
about, Bill.
almost like a lot of the
God,
Muslim
he's so biased.
community
He's so-
in the U.S. actually has family over there, and they're all just being slaughtered or starved out. Like, wow, like it's almost like there are people, not just in Michigan, but in the United States that aren't going to vote for the continuation of that, the continuation of genocide and ethnic cleansing and war crimes and mass starvation, like literally man-made famine. It's a crazy, crazy concept, Bill.
So biased on this issue. It's horrible.
votes over Biden's policy in Gaza cost him the election in the fall. If people don't know what we're talking about, Michigan just had a primary. Michigan has a large Muslim population. They're not too thrilled that Joe Biden is supporting Israel in its war. And so 100,000 people voted uncommitted. These are Democratic voters who apparently seem to be saying we are threatening to support Trump, a known lover of Muslims.
Yeah, except that's
my
not what they're
God.
saying, you absolute
No.
liar. And he knows he's lying. Look at his face. Look at this smug. Nobody has ever been more smug than Bill Maher, especially when he's
God.
wrong.
Bill Maher really does look like a rat, though. Not to be that kind of a dick. But
Bill
he
Maher
does-
is a
looks like a
rat
rat.
doing Bill Maher is a rat doing an impression of a man.
I tell you, man, sometimes God, I do believe in God, and I do believe he shows up in mysterious ways. You know, I'm going to talk about it in an episode at some point. It's like that natural feeling that you get when you see a sunrise or a sunset or a mountains or something like dramatic in nature. What is that feeling? To me, that's God, because otherwise, like, when you look at it, it's just like, that's just the way the mountains look. That's just the way the sun looks. There's no reason for you to have an emotional response to that. So
Right.
that to me is like God. And I think he does it in a negative way with really ugly souls. And I think in the cases of Bill
Right.
Maher and Ben Shapiro and Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon
Oh
and
yeah.
a whole Don Jr., like I think these are really ugly souls that God is letting us know to be wary of by their simple exterior appearance. But
Yeah.
notice that I didn't name too many lefties, and Bill Maher is one of them.
They're not saying we're going to support Trump. They're saying we're either going to sit out or we'll back Jill Stein, Cornel West, maybe a handful of them, RFK, even though I doubt that because RFK is massively pro-Israel just as much as Joe Biden, if not more so. That's what they're saying. They're not saying we're going to vote Trump. And by the way, CNN did a focus group, and about half of the uncommitted voters say, I could vote for Joe Biden, but he has to change his Gaza policy. He has to. So this isn't like, again, the whole framing is these people are so unreasonable. That's the framing. Not that Joe Biden is unreasonable for arming and funding and ethnic cleansing and a genocide. It's all these people are so unreasonable. And by the way, let's be clear, they framed it as, oh, it's the Arab and Muslim American population. In part, yes. It's also a tremendous number of young voters, a key
Yes.
demographic
Yeah.
for Democrats in every election. There wasn't a single, when like 50% of the vote had come in, there wasn't a single area in Michigan where uncommitted was under 10%. Think about that. Now, by
Yeah.
the end, I think a handful of them
Every
dropped below
county in
10%, but
Michigan,
it's
yeah.
still 7, 8, 9, or whatever it is. But that it's not the idea that you're painting this as just unreasonable, Muslim Americans who are asking for too much and threatening to support Trump. Just totally dishonest. That is dishonest framing.
Support Trump, a known lover of Muslims. But this is a wedge issue in the Democratic Party. The young people, the kids, and Muslim voters like this don't want him supporting Israel. Many other people do. What are your thoughts?
I think that the media really, really wants to put this narrative out there that Biden is going to lose Michigan over Gaza, when the truth is he's going to lose Michigan over 600,000 auto workers because his EV market was extremely punishing to auto workers. And like we said earlier, there's been this big realignment where working class Americans are very, very, very much on the Trump train, people who used to be Democrats and used to vote for Democrats. And rather than admit that, this outrage that Democrats lost the working class vote and try to figure out how we can appeal to them again, they're looking for excuses and other things to blame.
Nobody had
No, it's a lot simpler than that. You just have a candidate that looks like death. And
Right.
if you had any other candidate that wasn't
Yeah.
a fascist and looked like he could stand up to a bully like Trump,
Right.
then you would win.
Because
Against any generic Democrat beats Trump.
Exactly. I'm really tired of this just complete like negating of and ignoring of the fact that Biden is way too old. He's a gaffe machine. Most people look at him and say he shouldn't have a second, so he should step down. Someone else should take his place. He's not the strongest person to go against Trump. And by negating like the fact that most people believe that, everything you're saying just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the fact that a lot of people are standing up for what they believe, and if he's not even out there like touting his achievements and accomplishments anyway, like of course people are going to be frustrated. Be realistic. Be honest about what is actually going on. People don't want Biden. He's deeply unpopular for many reasons, primarily his
This
age.
is also She's also just trying to sound original. I mean, let's face it, there's
Yeah.
a lot of pressure on these pundits to come up with original commentary, and talking about car unions, auto workers unions is always
Yeah.
you never go broke on the left talking about unions, but
Yeah.
Nobody has ever been more empirically incorrect than this woman right now. Okay, under Trump, there was net outsourcing of 200,000 manufacturing jobs. In fact, his big accomplishment, his tax bill, where 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%, that bill pushed outsourcing. It incentivized outsourcing. That's Trump's record for factory jobs. Loss of 200,000. Under Biden, there's been a net increase of 800,000 manufacturing jobs. You have the infrastructure bill. You have the CHIPS Act. You have project labor agreements, which helps raise the pay for over 200,000 construction workers. The NLRB is massively pro-union. The best part of his record is this, by the way,
Yeah.
in the midterms.
Exactly.
The area where Joe Biden did the best in the midterms. There was no red wave. It was a red trickle. Where did Biden do the best? In the same place where she's saying the working class is abandoning him. Democrats did the best in the Rust Belt region. You want to know why? Because they're bringing jobs back. They're bringing jobs back there. So she's saying this. She's reiterating this zombie talking point, totally disconnected from the empirical data of what's been going on recently. No, I hate to tell you, the real problem is what the media is saying. It is the uncommitted vote over Gaza. She's just trying to deflect. Jesus Christ, man. What a dumb show. You're just going to have a show where it's a bunch of idiots saying wrong things and lying about facts of reality? That's what this show is now? Smearing the uncommitted voters in the Democratic base and then lying about what's actually going on in Michigan?
War in Gaza, or they'll call them deplorables, or they'll call them
never
racist,
learn.
because they don't want to admit that Trump has picked up a lot of the policies that used to be Democratic policies in the 90s, like controlling the border, for example. The idea that an open border and mass migration is extremely punishing to the working class.
It is literally the Democrats who just proposed a bill which gave aid to Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan and cracked down massively on the border. They just did it. It was the Republicans who said no because Trump said, I don't want to give Biden a win.
It's class warfare against the working class. It is
That's
an
a
upward
crazy
transfer of
thing,
wealth
too.
from the working class who end up competing with immigrants to the elites who end up employing them, and now they can employ cheap immigrants instead of having to pay working class Americans a living wage. Thanks, guys.
So we got manufacturing stuff, we got immigration stuff, we got it's definitely not Gaza, what these uncommitted people are doing. She has no idea what the fuck she's talking about. None. None whatsoever. You want to talk about class war? That was the whole point of Trump's time in office. The whole point was the class war. The whole point was his deregulation. The whole point was the tax bill where 83% of the benefits went to the top 1% and cut taxes for corporations. He destroyed the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You want to talk about class war?
Yeah, but he's not addressing what she was addressing, which is the marketing, which is that it appears to a lot of center voters, to a lot of boomer voters in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, that Trump has their back more than Biden does, or more than the left does.
he put on the facade that like he did, and it turns out he actually didn't. But like, thanks.
But that's the
thanks,
thing.
Hillary.
That's where her comment. That's where her comments are coming from. The woman on Bill Maher is that it's dealing with that perception issue, and I want Kyle's right in his data with the his point. I think his point is that the real problem here isn't what's going on in Michigan and Biden with the politics. It's the analysis. Like, they're not even drawing the right conclusions. And this woman obviously has a ton of loyalties we would benefit from knowing about.
Of course, and that's going to play into her biases as well, and that's why she comes off so wrong and out of touch. Just like it's no wonder Bill Maher has wrong.
As someone who's completely apolitical, how do you feel about it? I love migrants. I think we've got to figure a way to get them in. And people would be very surprised how educated some of these people are that are coming across the border. I mean, they're much better educated than people give them credit for. They're not all just coming for agricultural jobs or whatever.
Shockingly left-wing take from Dr. Phil there. Interesting. We don't need to watch the rest of this. This guy chimes in. Tim Ryan chimes in, and he's like, it's not fair to say that Biden's not for the working class.
Didn't he
and cite some of the
lose?
things that I cited there.
Or did he
I can't stand these people, man.
Yeah.
I can't stand these people.
No, he just didn't. He decided not to run again because he knew he was going to lose.
Oh, yeah.
What happened in Michigan is a massive flow of uncommitted votes, the overwhelming majority of which is because of Biden's Gaza policy. And they're trying to lie about those people and deflect and obfuscate blame and do this old school bullshit that you could have said plausibly in 2015 or 2016 about, Trump is, he's outflanked Biden on populism. Back then it was Hillary Clinton. But you couldn't plausibly make that case. But now we have 4 years of Trump in office, and his record is not at all a populist, not at all helping the working class. Biden, on these specific issues, is the one area where he did pretty well. No credit on that. Still, the zombie talking point of, Trump's pro-working class. It's like the zombie talking point of Trump being anti-war, even though he's not remotely anti-war. And anything to deflect blame from the fact that Biden is supporting a genocide and voters are against it. This show has become so unwatchable over the years. It's smug time with Bill Maher. Smug and arrogant time with Bill Maher. Wrong time with Bill Maher is more correct. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I'm trying to do with my show is talk about how privilege really messes with everybody. It's like there's that saying that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue that privilege morphs, or somehow privilege influences your worldview in a negative way, and the greater the privilege, the more it warps your worldview.
Exactly. I completely agree, and I can even see that in my like friend groups, like I like there's a huge difference between friends of mine that just always they've always struggled or what have you, and there's a big difference between them and those who have just had it just like good, have just been swimming through life like nothing because they have everything provided for them. They've never had to like wonder like where their next meal is coming from. Like literally living lives of not exactly luxury, but total privilege. Like a friend that still lives with their parents and like just has everything provided for them. They don't even have a job because like what's the point? Like my parents pay for everything anyway. Or another friend who is sitting on a whole bunch of money and doesn't really have to like works a job, but they're always going out on cruises or out to festivals and just generally doesn't understand like doesn't really know how to identify suffering as well. Like a lot of the time, like if you're sitting in like in a really privileged position, you're not able to identify that. Like so, you're not able to like really relate to friends that like are going through a rough time or are super depressed or are just struggling financially or you know just not overall not doing well, you know. And I think privilege has a lot to do with like that mindset. Because you're not able to relate, you know. I completely agree.
And I think maybe we should take a second to acknowledge what we did when we were talking about labor, which is that there are levels of privilege, and I think
Of course.
privilege starts where you don't have to worry about food on the table.
Yeah.
And then I think growing up, the next level of privilege is not whether or not you're going to go to college, but which college are you going to go to.
Right.
And then within that there are levels of like which kind of college you're going to go to, and that leads to more and more privilege. But it kind of is,
Yeah.
it's like these really steep ladders. Then some are steeper than others, and the better educational opportunities you can get early on in your life, the steeper that ladder is. And my original point was just it's too bad that so many see that as a ladder for material success as opposed to a legacy success, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I really care about it. We're not here for that long. We're only here for 80, 90 years, and those last 10, 20 years aren't very fun.
Right.
So, like let's make sure that we do something that matters instead of just making a bunch of money. And now, hey, that's easy for me to say. I grew up with that privilege of not having to worry about money and understanding that I was definitely going to go to college and not come out of it in debt.
Right.
So that was a ton of privilege for me, and I'm grateful for it. And
Yeah.
but with that said, I made the most of it. Like I took those learning opportunities seriously, and I am proud that I didn't come out of them because I was on that track of just focusing on money. I mean, I
Yeah.
got a premier job in corporate America coming out of college, and I just said, "Screw this. This isn't important. This doesn't matter." Working for these giant telecom companies so they can make a
Yeah.
few extra pennies every day, a few extra pennies per customer every year. Like, give me a break. I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to change the world, man. There's so
Yeah.
many problems with the world. It's like I saw somebody pointed out to me this social psychology research that suggests white liberals are in like between the ages of 25 and 45 are like the most oppressed people in our country. And I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because first off, because they're educated, they know how messed up the world is, how unfair the world is when it should be a lot further along. Like we are not where we are at as a race,
Yeah.
in order setting ourselves up for future success. So that's one thing. Because of their education, they know how unfair and just cruel the world is. And then because they're white and educated, they probably came from some kind of privilege. They
Yeah.
think that they can do something about it. And a little bit of my white privilege entitlement is that one of the reasons I'm so pissed and gotten into political commentary is because I was promised when I was young, I was promised back in the 90s, before you were born, that all this stuff in the Middle East, all this infighting, especially after 9/11, bipartisanship was back. And I was promised that things were going to get better. And every single major issue has gotten worse.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything, any major issue in our society that's gotten better.
Yeah.
In the last 45 years.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really comes to mind either. I mean, I guess like the only thing that really does like come to mind is, I guess, crime overall has gone down, at least violent crime, I guess, in the last 20, 30 years. But that can be probably chalked up to the fact that we're a lot more distractible as a society, you know? And I that's the only thing I can really come up with.
Well,
Honestly.
the war on drugs got toned down too.
Yeah, yeah, that as well. I'm actually like interested to see where the Biden administration, and the um, whoever's head of like who is it the FDA, how they approach the further stripping back of uh, um, restrictions on marijuana and whatnot, and cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest medical issue right now is obviously women's rights and this IVF
Oh yeah.
nonsense coming out of the South. It is just
Oh
unbelievable,
God.
man.
Yeah.
Have you ever spent
Like,
time in the
how
South? I
stupid.
think I may have asked you this before, but have you ever spent
No.
time in like
Fortunately,
Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas? Nothing like
I
that.
don't think I've
Probably
ever.
Texas, though, right?
I don't think I've ever, in my adult life, been any farther east than Utah. To be honest.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
So I mean, I can't imagine just how insufferable the deep South must be.
okay, Thunderbird, who we always got to hook up with some love because he's our Muslow
Oh
guy.
yeah. Oh yeah.
He says, intensely pleasurable response to music, chanting, or meditation is, quote, neurological response, triggered in, quote, periaqueductal gray, similar to ayahuasca or mushrooms, often called a, quote, spiritual experience.
Huh.
Yeah, I have no doubt, man.
Interesting.
I mean, the shrooms are the next frontier for
Yes.
legalizing drugs. I mean, and
Yeah.
I'm down to see the commercialization of that because I think that could really help me. I
Oh,
mean, I
dude,
deal
yeah.
with some. I mean, because of what I do for work now with all this political YouTubing, I have to read about the most depressing shit in our world, like
Yeah.
every hour of every day, and it's difficult to do. It's exhausting. It's like, wow, things are really bad.
Right.
And I don't know if I have enough time in my life to fix even half of all this stuff.
No, of course, yeah, or like even put a dent in it. I mean, raising awareness about it is one thing, but affecting it like on a policy level is a whole other beast. But yeah, no, like I don't even really. I used to be a gigantic stoner in my late teens, early 20s. But like it just got to the point where like I kind of outgrew it. Like there are definitely like some things I still really like about the effects of cannabis and whatnot. Like I still use CBD every now and then, but getting stoned for the sake of it, like I just hated the feeling. I like the creativity that it brings, big time. But I didn't like the spiraling into like existential dread or worrying about the future in general, like freaking out
Anxiety?
about that. Yeah, big time anxiety. But I did know this because we were just talking about shrooms. Um, microdosing like psilocybin mushrooms is like it provides you with a very a similar stoning like that weed does, but it feels a whole lot cleaner. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it's weighing you down. It doesn't feel like it's making you anxious. It actually feels a bit like more relieving, and I really really appreciate that about uh, like mushrooms in general. Thank you.
Yeah, they sound amazing. They sound
Yeah.
amazing. The only thing I worry about with is what you just talked about with mushrooms is the dosing,
Yeah. Um,
because it's very easy to. I mean, it's not. People think it's easy. It's probably not as easy. I don't know.
yeah, I actually kind of found out the hard way. I was actually going to give my brother and my roommate um, some mushrooms for them to trip, and I ended up like not even giving them remotely enough to make it matter. Like like knowing how to properly dose is like pretty essential, honestly. And yeah, I just didn't know how to do that. And of course,
Yeah,
like
well, I'm sure you're not the only one.
yeah, and then of course like there's the opposite issue too, like taking way too many, and all of a sudden you're like glued to yourself, and you're like just seeing fractal pattern after fractal pattern, and you're just going off into space. It can get pretty wild if you're not sure what you're doing.
Yeah, my understanding is you got to be in a very emotionally comfortable place
Exactly.
to really enjoy it.
Yeah,
Um,
and hopefully earlier in the day too, before like not like close to like the evening, where like you're close to going to bed, because that will keep you up if you have a big trip.
all right, so do we want to? Let's take a look at these primary results. Is there anything going on?
Yeah,
Um,
anything. We can start like
super.
like on the big scale. It just like work our way down. Like I guess look at the numbers for each state for like um how Biden and Trump look, and then look at state races. Probably not state races, like state like Senate races in each state so far. See if see if there's going to be any change in the Senate. Let's see.
Haley got Vermont.
Wow. Wait, Haley's gonna win Vermont?
Yeah, 17 delegates. Good for her.
Wow. Wait, is
Uh,
this the first state she's won in the primary?
yes.
Wow. I wasn't expecting her to win any
Anything.
state
Yeah, me
primary.
neither.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, good for
That's
her.
gonna be an interesting headline for sure. Wowee.
Wow, he is right. Do we want to talk about levels of wealth since we were talking about levels of privilege, or did you have something you wanted to get in on?
We can start touching on that, yeah. While we wait for more primary results to go in, yeah. I wanted to see how what you had in store for that, yeah.
All right, yeah, I think it's important to talk about because people don't really understand the strata of superlative wealth. For example, the self-made guy who is worth 10 million, his political power is nothing compared to someone who's worth 100 million or much less, a billionaire as it goes up.
Yeah,
So, but I
yeah,
think understanding their lifestyles really helps you appreciate their sociopathy because make no mistake, that is what this level of privilege does is the more privilege you have, the greater the sociopathy and greater the
yeah,
lack of empathy for others.
big time.
If you earned $1 per second, then to make $1 million would take you about 11 and a half days. But to make $1 billion would take you over 31 and a half years. You see, it's easy to think of wealth in terms of rich or poor, But broadly speaking, there are arguably 5 different levels of rich. And at each level, things change very drastically. The difference between what a millionaire can do and a billionaire can do is simply staggering. In this video, we'll be exploring what life is like at each of these different wealth levels, and delving into how the ultra-rich spend their money, including some of the most bizarre and extravagant purchases you've ever heard of. But as you're watching, you'll realize that one of the biggest changes that happens at each of these wealth levels is perspective. Because prices feel relative to how much you earn. So if you compare someone who's earning $40,000 a year with someone earning $400 million a year, it's 10,000 times more, which means a Lambo that costs $300,000 to them is the equivalent of spending $30. A $10 million piece of art feels like $1,000. A $15 million home in the Hamptons feels more like
This is what I try to
$5,000.
convey to people.
So, whilst
It's
to us,
so
each of
crazy.
those purchases would feel so major, to a billionaire, it's not even something they'd really need to think about. And of course, when you're that
Can we
wealthy,
turn it up just
it's
a
not
little bit?
items and experiences that you can buy. But we'll get to that. Let's instead start off with the first level of rich, the top 1%. Even though this phrase is synonymous with being extremely rich, if your income
Not even that consequential.
is over about $200,000 a year, you would technically be part of the top 1% of worldwide earners. And so, being in the top 1% may not make you feel quite as rich as you would think. Because sure, you can typically afford a nice house and car, but with those things comes higher costs. And so you probably don't feel very financially secure, and you're likely still working a full-time job. Which is why beyond this level, wealth starts to be measured in net worth rather than income.
Yeah.
There's a saying on Wall Street, very important to understanding the fundamentals of capitalism. Your first million is your toughest million. Same idea, right? Inverted.
Yeah.
Once you have money, it is exponentially easier to make money.
Yep.
Because the more wealth you have, the more assets you have, and you're probably not making your money from a normal salary. So the next level of rich is a net worth of $10 million to $30 million. At this level, your needs are met. You can live very comfortably. You have a really nice house. You often fly first class internationally. If it's a special occasion, you might book a $2,000 suite. You can afford any healthcare you need, and in fact, no emergency financial situation can destroy your life. And yet, you're still not rich in the way that money doesn't matter. You still
That, I feel like, is the ultimate motivation for most people. For most humble people, it is to be able to have enough money to have a home that you own, you're done with your mortgage, and you want maybe $1 million. I mean, obviously you want more, but you know, you want your home paid off, your car's paid off, and you want enough money so that if you lost half of it, your lifestyle wouldn't change. You know what I mean?
That's really,
that's,
yeah,
I think,
my goal.
I think that's what people mostly want. And I think, well,
Exactly.
most people also, too, when you have kids, you want to live near your kids. That's very important. Chris
Yeah.
Matthews had a lot of data on that about what
You still have to be
Americans want.
sensible and careful when it comes to big decisions. And in the banking world, you're still not classified as having an ultra high net worth. Which brings us to our next level, a net worth of $30 million to $100 million. At this point, you start playing in the big leagues. And most likely, you run or have a controlling interest in a very large company. You always stay at 5-star hotels, and you have multiple residences all around the world that you can stay in as well. You take holidays during
Okay,
prime time.
that part's not true. Multiple homes are all around the world. That's not accurate. Having another home in another country, that's
That's a big headache.
unless you're from that country or have roots there or have a business interest there or some sort of other connection, unless it's like, you know, the whole British Islands or something like that. But if it's like in Europe or somewhere exotic, you know, you're really talking more about closer in the $50 to $100 million range. I don't think anybody with $30 or $40 million owning international real estate. That's probably closer to 75 to 100.
I mean, yeah, especially real estate that you're actually like going and staying at, and not
right.
that you're
And
renting out.
upkeeping it.
Yeah,
And the upkeep on these places is, you know,
a lot.
anywhere from $20,000 a month to $50,000, $100,000 a month for their primary home.
Yeah.
Time. For example, going to Monaco for the Grand Prix, or Cannes for the film festival. And you won't bat an eyelid when the place you're staying at costs $10,000 to $20,000 per night. You have personal assistants, and are starting to have people that others have to talk to get to you. You can buy pretty much anything that normal people think of as
Once again, I don't know if that's true about the $30 million people for $10,000 to $20,000 a night. You know, maybe $5,000 a night, but again, I'm able to do the math. That's a big range. 30 million to 100 million is this is the biggest range.
Yeah.
But he's right about being able to pull in the big leagues, because anytime you can throw down $1 million on an investment, you could end up getting a Bitcoin level of return. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what you have to be when you're that liquid. then you can make those kinds of plays, and that's where the really big money is those startup plays, something that works out. And you get in really super early.
Exactly.
That's how new money is created. We'll do an episode or some segment on old money wealth at some point.
Yeah.
As stuff rich people buy. Like you can buy any cars you want, the fanciest jewelry, and so on. Instead of flying first class, you'd fly privates. Although, having said that, you typically charter a flight or own a private.
So that's one of my Dieter threes is if you want to find out who someone really is, get them stressed, get them drunk, or watch what you do with their money. If you ever run into anyone with serious money, if they spend it on experiences, they might be cool. They might be grounded. They might be, a benevolent 0.1 percenter or 0.01 percent or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But if they spend their money on possessions and only possessions, watch out. They're probably not that interesting and very selfish.
Yeah.
A private jet fractionally through a service like NetJets, instead of buying it outright and having to maintain it. But still, at this level, another big change that happens is your social circle. You probably start socializing with congressmen, senators, and community leaders. You're likely very well respected within some very high-class circles. Interestingly, though,
you're not having one-on-one meetings with them per se unless you're close to 100 million, but you are definitely able to get private meetings with them for the right price.
Since you're likely surrounded by other ultra-wealthy people, you may start to feel you don't have enough. Sure, you may have just bought a new Ferrari, but your friend has a limited edition version where only 5 were ever made. And sure, you had dinner with a local governor, but your billionaire friend just had dinner with the president. Even at this level, people are still looking above them, which brings us to our next level of wealth, $100 million to $1 billion net worth. To be at this level, you likely have ownership or control of a business that most of the public have heard of, even if they...
Yeah, this is stratosphere. I mean, no one at this level really has a grip on reality anymore unless they...
Yeah.
Here's the rite of passage if you're this wealthy. You have to admit that you see a therapist or talk to a therapist every week. If you're this wealthy and you talk to a therapist every week, I am open to the possibility of you being a grounded person. The only billionaire that I've actually felt like might be, relatively normal is Richard Branson. That's the only one. I don't know if you ever saw his documentary on HBO. It was fantastic.
What's his claim?
Virgin Airlines. Virgin
Okay.
Airlines. Yeah, he did all these stunts and really creative marketing campaigns, and he's a British guy and owns an island in the Caribbean and very wealthy. He did music. He's in a lot of different businesses. He's a very impressive guy. You should definitely watch that documentary. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, leftists don't want to know about these people, but I'm sorry, you have to.
Yes.
They run the world. I know you hate them. I know you don't want to spend your time reading up on Richard Branson or people like him. Richard Branson I'm not even really talking about. I'm really talking about guys like Sheldon Adelson, rest in hell. Like those kinds of people, and the Koch brothers. And this is just a segue into what their life is like, because if you understand what their life is like, you can understand how they're going to look at other human beings, which is just numbers on sheets of paper, man. They look at people like numbers on sheets of paper. That's it.
Even if they haven't heard of you directly. At this point, you can likely socialize with movie stars, rock stars, and the corporate elites. You can go pretty much anywhere you want, and always in style. You have multiple residences for staff all over the world, with elite cars at every residence. If it's your thing, you might have a private island, and of course, a private yacht to get you there. Almost any experience you can dream up, you can have. Want to play tennis with your favorite star? Call his people. For a donation of $100,000 or more to his charity, you can probably play a match with him. Want your favorite band to come and play at your private party? Well, for the right price, they probably will. What about if you love art? Your people could arrange for the curator at the Louvre to show you around and show you some masterpieces they haven't exhibited in years. If you can dream an experience up, you can likely have it. Donations and fees can get you to anyone. And once you have many hundreds of millions of dollars, it's the same when it comes to buying things. You may hire people specifically to find you the most extravagant versions of items you can think of. For example, the Australian company Toilet Paper Man produces 22-karat gold toilet paper for a cost of over 1.3 million. And if you are going to quite literally flush money down the toilet, why not get a gold toilet or an entire gold bathroom to go with it? In fact, if you're ultra wealthy, you can literally have gold everything. How about a 24 karat gold water bottle, which in itself is a piece of designer art and comes with spring water from France and Fiji, combined with glacier water from Iceland? Or alternatively, how about the world's most expensive iPhone that has 24 karat gold casing and more than 600 white and black diamonds, plus sapphire glass for the screen? This obviously isn't available to the general public. To buy one, you're going to need over $15 million. But this is the key. This
$15 million for a phone. What do you just wear it for? Bring it to parties? I mean, you bring it to the Academy Awards. What occasion justifies that level of accessory?
Yeah. It's
I mean,
unfathomable.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is like if you're like royalty.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like
Literally,
royalty,
yeah.
and it was like a marketing campaign or something like that, like benevolent royalty, if
Yeah.
there is such a thing.
At this level, it's not just about buying the fanciest, most luxurious items, it's about getting the rarest and most exclusive things you possibly can. For example, you could get a limited edition pen that costs $160,000, has 4,810 diamonds inside, and only 8 are made each year. Or if you want to go a lot bigger than that, many billionaires turn to art. And not just rare paintings, but things like this dead shark art piece created by Damien Hirst that sold for $12 million. Or let's say you like piano. Well, here's the same crystal piano that was used for the Beijing Olympic Games that was purchased at a private auction for a record $3.2 million. You see, when you're at this wealth level, your mind is the only real limit to what is available. But then we have our final level, the 1 billion net worth and above. Now, before we get into what you can do as a billionaire, which honestly is pretty insane, it's worth noting that the number of billionaires on Forbes' annual rich list has significantly increased in recent years, and there's now around 2,755 known billionaires. Of course, it's possible there are more who have generational wealth that simply do a good job.
There are absolutely more. There are a lot of people out there whose wealth you have no idea about because of something we'll watch at some point about trusts. Do you know about trusts? And how they're like separate entities, and it's how rich people control their money without having to get taxed on it?
Really?
Yeah, you can be educated on that one. You need to know about it.
Job of staying very, very private. But either way, Forbes have estimated these 2,755 billionaires are worth a combined $13.1 trillion, and therefore have more wealth between them than the poorest 5 billion people on Earth combined. These statistics are overwhelming. But let's actually visualize it to put things in perspective. This rice example really highlights that even within this billionaire category, the difference between 1 billion and the kind of wealth Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk have is insanely vast. I'm also a big fan of James Jani's YouTube channel, and he did a great job of visualizing the difference between these large sums of money in a different way. So after seeing these examples, we've now got a better idea of the scale of $1 billion. So now let's look at what you can actually do with it. Because essentially, you can buy anything. And I do mean anything. We're no longer talking about luxurious items and experiences. Firstly, you can buy access. You can ask your staff to contact almost anyone on the planet and get a call back. It's amazing the level.
I think you could do that if you're at like 800 million or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
You know.
Of access and respect $1 billion can get you, where within an hour you can ask your people to get in touch with someone and they'd be able to do it. And I'm not just talking about contacting celebrities. It works the same with powerful people within politics as well, especially because the billionaire may well be a donor to their political party. And so if you're a billionaire, you may occasionally meet with the heads of states and have conversations with them, which brings us.
Okay,
I'm seeing quite a lot of my favorite actors.
I'm gonna turn one of my cards over here.
Yeah. Go for it.
This is this right here, what they just said about like having access to politicians, is why I think politicians from privilege will always be valuable. Because if you come from privilege, you're not as intimidated by the power as you would be if you come from a humbler beginning. If you've been surrounded by wealth and power your whole life, you're not impressed by it. Like, oh, okay, we're flying on a private jet. Whoop-de-fucking-do. I've done it before. You know, we're eating this amazing meal. Well, I've eaten some pretty amazing meals. We're going to these isolated locations. Okay, that's cool. But I'm not going to forget about the stakes of this relationship. I'm not going to get intimidated. I mean, UPenn has a Jewish alum that threatened to take away like $1 billion or something, or some absurd amount of money if they didn't fire the dean because she said that they wouldn't arrest people at an anti-Semitic rally, or she gave a roundabout answer. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're referring to, yeah.
And so the level of influence they have, and there you go, the entitlement. And
Yeah.
the school that I grew up going to, the response would have been like, "Go ahead, do what you want." You know, we're not gonna like conform. We're not gonna let money dictate what we do and do not do. We're gonna have our people's back. But obviously, different situation there. But yeah, this is fascinating, isn't it? Like I think that everybody needs to watch this video to understand how the ruling class of this nation live.
No, for real. I completely agree. I mean, I dabbled in this just a little bit, like a few years back. I actually made because I came across it was a link to a website. I think GitHub something. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's literally like an interactive wealth scale chart, and I couldn't even finish it. Like the the vast scale of just like the net worth of Jeff Bezos took several minutes to scroll by, because like obviously there's a scale, like one square represents $1,000 and $1,000,000 and $1 billion, and then a billion itself was just gigantic. And then you got to Jeff Bezos's, and I couldn't even get I couldn't even get halfway through, and it gave you facts along the way, statistics, what this money can do, what this money could be used for, what it could solve, how it could be, better uh, um, uh, better spent, I guess you could say. It's insane. So this has always fascinated me, and I this should definitely be a cornerstone of the show, just getting people to understand this and why it's important.
Brings us to the second thing $1 billion can buy: influence. As a billionaire, you have many ways to shape public policy and the public debate. And this isn't always done in some kind of evil way, like lobbying for lower taxes for rich people. Although, obviously, that does happen. But
This is what made the show Succession so great, was that it wasn't just any billionaire family. It was a billionaire family that was essentially raping the fourth estate media. So that is why, they are not only billionaires and influential because of that, they are superlatively influential because their wealth derives from a media empire. And media empires are, let's face it, the most powerful. I mean, tech, even you could even say Google now is kind of a media empire. The internet is kind of media now, right?
Right.
I mean, it's available to everybody.
Yeah.
But the simple fact is, because of your wealth and connections, you can absolutely influence big changes in the world. And not just on a political level, because another thing you can buy is impact through philanthropy and charity. Your money can literally change countless lives. The question is, how do you distribute it? Clean water for villages? Fund new hospitals? Try to save a dying species of animal? With money, you can impact almost anything of your choice. But one of the biggest differences with billionaires that is often overlooked is the ability to essentially buy time. You quite literally don't have to wait for anything. No lines, no sitting around. Just think about it. You've got your own private jet. So you just show up at the airport whenever you want, sit down in the plane, and 2 minutes later you're in the sky and can go wherever you wish. When you arrive, a driver will have already been arranged to pick you up and take you wherever you want to go. Your assistant will have already got the best table at the restaurant you mentioned wanting to eat at, or maybe your assistant arranged for a celebrity chef to come to one of your vacation homes instead, at whatever time you choose. Everything you could need is taken care of for you.
That's what they don't always use celebrity chefs, but that is one thing. There's this whole universe of like really great restaurant quality chefs that cook at home for rich people that like their privacy and they
Yeah.
just don't want to go out to eat.
However, believe it or not, there are some downsides to being this ultra wealthy. Firstly, it's nearly impossible to have normal emotional relationships at this level. It can become increasingly difficult to have friends and family that love you for who you are. They exist, but it's pretty hard to know which ones they are. Because your world is likely filled with yes men and people looking to take advantage of every opportunity.
So this
Yeah.
happens at about 3, 4, 500 million. I mean, I know a guy
I'd say even lower than that.
even
too.
lower,
Yeah, like maybe in the tens of millions, honestly. Like because you
50. No, you got to do the math. So if you have $50 million, you have 2 homes at least. Maybe, and then you've got whatever cars. Who cares?
yeah.
But your travel, you're probably traveling 30 to 60 days a year. You have a great lifestyle, but I don't know. People are envious of you, but they're
Yeah.
not like. I think it's pretty easy at that level to weed out who really likes you for
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah,
think
you're probably right.
when you
Yeah.
get to when you get to 100 and you start flying private and start including people in that experience. I mean, it's one thing to fly private, but to like, to take your friend or family member on your jet with you somewhere,
Yeah.
like that's pretty special. So anyway, I think this is more around somewhere closer to 500 million is where these really trust issues begin, because I had a friend of mine who was, quite honestly, in my estimation, being taken advantage of by Hollywood.
Yeah.
And there's actually two guys like this, but one trusted. He was from the South. He trusted everybody. He trusted way too many people and got
Can't do
absolutely
that.
taken to the cleaners. The other guy trusted only the best people in the business, but still got taken to the cleaners. And the amount of money he was talking about investing in these projects, I was just like, Jesus Christ, if you're throwing that much money in these things, how much do you have overall? And I came to the conclusion it was probably somewhere between 700 and a billion. I don't think he was quite a
Yeah.
billionaire, because he was liking to go out to eat too much. I don't
Yeah.
know. But LA money is different.
every opportunity,
Right.
your trust and connections with people are undoubtedly considerably weakened. Dating also becomes an odd experience. On the one hand, some of the world's most beautiful and intelligent women are all around you at parties and events. But again, finding someone you have a genuine emotional connection with is a different story, especially because your time is so valuable that you're always busy and unable to invest in making deep connections with new people. And even if you
Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. That's why you need to have, if you're a billionaire, you must admit that you see a therapist in order for me to
Yeah.
entertain the idea that you're a grounded person.
Yeah.
Because if you actually invest in stuff up and you just put okay, here's how much money I need a year to be happy, I don't need to work anymore, you go find something else. Dude, it could be anything. It could be painting, it could be photography, it could be going and working in third world nations and stuff like that. All you have to do is hire a right consultant to figure out what makes you happy, and that consultant is usually a good therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, someone that you pay. I mean, these people are picky. Be selective. Go through 100 therapists to find the right one, but find
Yeah.
one for
If
Christ's
you do
sake.
find someone.
Nobody. My point is that nobody is above the power of this level of wealth. Nobody.
Yeah.
You must. It's like addiction. You need help. Nobody can do it alone. It's like the positive form of addiction, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's the addiction that everybody thinks that they want.
Yeah.
The indulgences that everybody thinks that they want, but they don't. Trust me, you don't
Exactly.
want this life.
No.
someone, the relationship balance is skewed in a strange way when you have essentially unlimited money. Because no matter whether you pay for everything or whether your partner makes their own money, either way, something about the dynamic feels off. And finally, and most crucially of all, no level of money can give you truly everything. Because death is the great equalizer, and losing loved ones, and losing your own health, and facing your own mortality are problems that no amount of money can solve. The Reddit post
And going through this now with some family, the only thing that matters when the end comes is authentic relationships with other human beings. Community, man. It's
Yep.
what the right. It's what talk about what the left has that the right doesn't. The left has a more diverse and robust portfolio of communities.
Yep.
The right it's a long distance community. They're all united behind these symbols. They're not really doing the thinking, the communicating, the intellectualism together.
Yep.
They're just falling in line.
That's
like
exactly
blind
it. That's exactly it. Yeah. That's why left is best.
poster who inspired this video and deserves full credit, talks about how he met Sylvester Stallone at a party, who had obviously had a very successful career. He said he was such a great guy, had huge levels of wealth and luxury, a smart and beautiful wife, and yet he also had a special needs son who died young. In his words, nobody has it all. Nobody. In fact, if you are watching this video and feeling poor, I think it's worth rethinking. Because in this video, we've looked at several levels of wealth. But the fact you are watching this means you are nowhere close to the bottom of the total wealth pyramid. It's easy to look up and feel frustrated that some people have so much more than us. But just look down the wealth pyramid for a moment. If you have internet access to watch this, plus some food in the fridge, clothes on your back, a roof over your head, and a place to sleep, then you are richer than 75% of the world. In fact, even if you have $1 to your name right now, you are still richer than the majority of the world who are either in debt or have absolutely nothing. What this video really highlights
Oh, I got some creativity
Yeah.
for you with debt, my man. I got some serious creativity for you with debt, but I'm not going to reveal it now. It's a tease.
Is that rich versus poor is so arbitrary. It's not two groups. There are many, many different levels. And compared to most of the world, you might well be a lot richer than you think. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure
All right, well done.
Excellent
Well
video.
done. Isn't
Fantastic.
that a great video?
The
I want to make sure we
fantastic,
get
yeah.
who's let's make sure we give credit. Magnates Media.
Magnates Media. Yeah.
Magnates Media. I'm subscribing for
Fantastic. Fantastic video. Loved it. Like
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, dude. Like it's been something
People need to
that's-
know that, man. It's required
everybody-
reading.
Yeah.
Required reading. You must know this. You know, I mean, and that's the beautiful thing is we have the medium now in YouTube. Like that is very professionally done. Yeah,
Yes.
they're using a lot of borrowed footage, but it looks amazing. I
Really
never
though.
wanted to take my eyes off of it. Like it's visually appealing. It's professionally done. There is, talk about media law. Some politicians got to come along and talk about media law because this is an incredible resource for 17, 18-year-old about to go to college. Hey, man, you're about to go pick what you want to study. Here's what you're looking at. Go down this rabbit hole about how money really works, how wealth really works. And learn the layers of the lesson of your first million is your toughest million and why. And that'll prepare you for work life, way more than economics.
Yeah, this is essential for what we were talking about, like segments where just going over what every American should know, and this even goes beyond every American too. Like just the staggering levels of wealth, like it transcends identity, like citizenship, like, the borders of your country, nations. You can literally go anywhere you want and have any kind of life you want with these levels of wealth and whatnot. It's important just to see just how vast it is in comparison to. I mean, because like it says, a billion is so like unfathomably larger than a million, for example.
Yeah, I mean, once you get north of 50, you're starting to talk about political influence on
Yeah.
a pretty significant scale. In terms of deciding elections, if you really wanted to, like you can organize your own PAC, is what I'm saying. Once
Of
you get to
course.
that level of wealth.
Yeah, no, exactly. Make any kind of donations you want to various organizations and political entities. Yeah, yeah,
The one social experience in terms of doing the empathetic arithmetic for the 0.1 percenters and the 0.001 percenters and all these people is that the social experiences are limited to other people who are within that socioeconomic category, partly because they all just kind of go to the best hotels and the best country clubs and the best this and the best that. And
Yeah.
so they're going to overlap with each other a lot just by doing the best of everything. But also because that's the only people you really feel like you can trust are the people that already have money.
yeah.
And then that turns into this vicious emotional spiral of, oh, you don't trust anybody too? Oh, now we can kind of trust each other, but we don't seriously trust each other because we can't help but compete with each other. I talked about this in my first
Yeah.
episode. The foundation of this culture is the WASP elite of the East Coast at the country clubs, and now it just manifests in different parts of the country. But the South, man, I wish I could take you. I wish I could take you in like one of those Harry Potter invisibility cloaks into some of the country clubs I've been to in the deep South. Oh my God. Anyway,
Really?
what's on your mind? I've been talking for a while.
No, you're good. Honestly, like this is all kind of like a learning curve for me as well. Like, I I have not had the means to discover a whole lot of these things, like go to the country clubs and just see where a lot of like privilege can get you for sure. Like growing up, my family never really had much. Like my parents had me their senior year in high school, and uh, we never really had like much money. Like we just got by, but like it was never it was never really a privileged life. Like we got by, we survived. There was some debt here and there, but like overall, it definitely could have been worse. But my experiences when it comes to uh, I guess privileges is quite limited. So
Right on. All right.
I'm all here for it, honestly. Um, did you want to check on some of the primaries?
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll through here and see if we've got some California primary results to talk about.
Yeah.
Because hold on, can you riff for a second? I gotta let the dog out.
Sure. Yeah. All right. How many people we got watching right now on my stream?
Go.
Got 4. Torrential Rage. Hello. How goes it? Thank you for joining in.
Oh, I gotta give Thunderbird some
waving
love.
back.
Thunderbird said, "Thought I was middle class, but according to the chart I saw recently, I am upper class, and I was rich before my stock losses." Well, good for you for having stock, man. I'm happy for you. Corporations are not people, and money is not speech. Yes, thank you, Citizens United.
Right.
And then he has the final post: all property is property of the public, who by their laws have created it. He that does not like civil society on these terms has no right to the benefits of society. Benjamin Franklin. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think all those. Thunderbird's very well educated. Thunderbird, let us know where you went to school or what you do, what your media diet is like. Let us know where you get all these profound thoughts, man, because we don't agree with everything you say, but you're clearly doing a lot of thinking. There is no lack of quantity of thought in your analytical skills, my man. You are definitely mulling stuff over, and that's great.
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, just like we have this thing about, physical fitness in this country of like keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Well, we need to do that for our citizenship too and our intellects as well. Keep reading, keep reading, keep reading, exposing yourself to new different viewpoints, and look at the credibility of the source. Look
Right.
at that's one thing that conservatives don't do. They don't look at who is this person? Why am I listening to them? Where did they go to school? What expertise do they have in this area? Conservatives just don't even do that.
Right. Yeah. Shout out Thunderbird. Like, thanks for your contributions, and it's always something to think about for sure. And shout out to my friend Yumi Trash, aka Sen. Thank you for joining in. It's nice that you were summoned here, and I hope that we've had you in a chokehold.
All right, let's see. I have got the New York Times. Let's see, the New York Times. Yeah, I mean the polls. What time is it? Is it even?
It's
polls
8.
just closed.
Yep.
The polls just closed. So I don't know, man. I don't really feel like, what are we at here? An hour and 22 minutes. I don't want to get too stale. Do you have any other videos that you might want to watch in the meantime? I mean, I don't really care about the rest of the country. Like, here, let me take a look at key races on. Let me just share this tab instead. What are you laughing at? You don't care about the rest of the country?
No. It was a little inside joke with my friend, and she responded, "I hate you, LMFAO."
Okay. Let's see. So this is what the New York Times has got going on. Of course, all they're talking about is a Republican primary. Who cares?
Yeah.
Democratic presidential primaries, Biden, Oklahoma. It was soft in Oklahoma.
Yeah. It didn't get much. Only 64% there. That's interesting.
Ted Cruz won the Republican primary in Texas.
Of course.
Allred won the Democratic primary. Let's see, Alabama, California, 12th district. Yeah, this is all This is all like obscure normies are not going to be interested in this.
Cries in Texas.
But
yeah, looks like well, I mean, it makes sense. A lot of the more eastern states are having their results because they're
right, the polls
obviously
closed a few hours ago.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Live forecast. I don't want to see. Yeah, this is great radio. All right, well, I still got 2 viewers hanging on.
Yeah, I got a few. So was
What do you want?
what there's like a projection scale for each state up above or something like that. For like kind of near the top, I think it was.
Here?
No, one more section up, I think. Yeah, what's this? Live forecast.
This is just his forecast of how big Trump's going to win. Trump's going to win by
Oh,
22 in Massachusetts,
wow.
14 in Utah, because of Mitt Romney, I guess.
Does right? Does it have does it have the projections for the Democratic primary by chance?
Does it have the
The
Democratic primary
forecast,
results?
yeah, the forecast for it at least.
I mean, I would think it would be right here. Why
Yeah,
can't I
it's-
just
it
switch over?
Looks like it's only showing the Republican side.
State results. I don't know.
Hmm. Dang.
All right. I think we should call it.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, I think we should call it because it's getting stale and I'm getting tired. I'm down. My viewers just cut in half. I'm down to 1.
Yeah, no, I hear it. Yeah, yeah, we can definitely do this again next week. I mean, unless you're not busy tomorrow, I was gonna take time to
I'm down to do it tomorrow. Yeah, I got.
yeah,
I'm done. I'm doing a youth lacrosse thing, hence the lacrosse sticks in the background.
right.
So I'm doing that on Mondays and Wednesdays and Saturdays for games. But yeah, we'll let's stay in touch and let's put a probably on that for tomorrow.
Yeah,
Because we got to talk about let's definitely do tomorrow because we got to talk about these election results.
of course.
I mean, it's just we knew this was going to happen. We knew we were going to get about an hour and a half in and be like, all right, let's hear some election results. But it's
right. Yeah, we can talk about the various. Of course, the headlines will start popping up, and we can just like do our commentary on like what's the most significant outcomes after.
And we'll
tonight.
do a lot of media criticism too. I mean, let's pay attention to what people say as these results come in.
Yeah,
Because there's going to be a lot of attention on this California Senate race with Schiff and
Yeah.
Porter, and although it's going to be boring because Schiff's going to get the nomination.
Of course, right? Yeah, yeah. And we'll even like snag some videos or whatever to react to as well.
All right, America. Thank you for listening. This has been Left Coast Live. We will see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll most likely probably see you tomorrow. Have a good night, dude.
All right, my man. I'll talk to you later. I'm going to try and cut that up before bed. Maybe break it into some segments. It's the
Yeah.
best way to do it.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do the same.